Conversations with the Tree by Jane Warren Campbell. Read by myself, the author. Chapter 2. Beginning with a poem from Mother Earth. Come before me, little child. Come before me. How can you think you have dominion over me? Just try to imagine your size compared to mine. You are a small speck upon my vast land, yet I respect you. I give life to you. I am patient with you as I wait for you to understand. We are here together. We are one with each other. And though your presence could be lost in my vastness, it is not. Every footstep is marked. Every loving thought received as it nourishes me. Your presence is great. Please remember, your presence is great. From despair to discovery. As my year dedicated to healing drew to a close, it was ending as dramatically as it began, but for very different reasons. There is no doubt in my mind that when things are falling apart, life is truly presenting the opportunity for a positive new beginning. In order to reap the benefits from the new life I was living, I had to learn to trust that life was leading me with love, regardless of how things appeared to my logic mind. Behind the magic and wonder of my newfound friendship with the trees was an underlying current of fear running through my life. It was an old pattern of believing in lack. Along with the joy and wonder that was unfolding for me was a parallel reality of having to manage my finances and create a stable income for myself. In my determination to believe in love over fear, I was guided, often unaware, into the highest outcome, but it wasn't without effort. 1 week before being released from my job, I had attended a weekend workshop that was one of those buy it now or lose it kind of deals. The facilitator was an upcoming Tony Robbins type of guy. He had lots of energy, and after his free talk, the audience had the opportunity to attend one of his weekend events at a greatly reduced fictitious price. I bought it. I even asked the woman who sat beside me at the event, who was in line ahead of me to register, if I could travel with her. It was completely out of character for me. I would never be so brazen as to invite myself on a trip that would require several hours of driving, especially with a stranger, and I had my own vehicle. The words were coming out of my mouth before I had time to think about it. It was like I was being pushed by an invisible force in the direction I needed to take. The weekend was intense. We started Friday evening, going well beyond what I considered to be a reasonable hour to retire. We continued starting early Sunday morning, learning, processing, and sharing, and we were still going at 11 o'clock that night. At that point, I was exhausted and completely ticked off that we were expected to be doing silly activities at that hour. Even though I knew that pushing us would make us more vulnerable, which would then open up more potential for change, I was not impressed. It wasn't until the very end of the workshop, late Sunday afternoon, when it all came together for me. It seems the facilitator really did know what he was doing. Even though it wasn't obvious to me until then, the purpose of the weekend event was to find out what we truly wanted to be doing in life. Undoubtedly, that was why I was so driven to attend. Not only was I unhappy with my job, I now believed the universe was pushing me, knowing that I soon would be jobless and needing a new direction. What I discovered and declared to the workshop group that Sunday afternoon was that in my heart, I wanted to be developing and delivering workshops. I had taught Reiki years earlier and offered a couple of holistic workshops that received very positive feedback. After the weekend of exploration, that passion surfaced again. Reflecting back, this was clearly another hidden treasure. Turning my focus in a new direction prepared me for what was to come just a few days later when my means of survival came crashing down. As my career slipped away, I was holding the seed of that new direction clearly in my mind. Once I found myself unemployed, it didn't take me long to move toward that new path. Every February there is a holistic fair close to where I was living. I enjoyed attending every year to see if there was anything new that I hadn't seen or tried yet. This time I decided to see what the market was like for my work. I reserved a table and offered mini channeling sessions along with some sound healing. It was the first time I had put myself out there like that as a channel, and I was attracting a lot of interest. In one of the brief moments I had between sessions, I glanced up and there stood Ernie, a former Reiki student of mine. I hadn't seen him in several years. As we chatted, he commented that he had few people he could talk to with the same understanding I had about his interests in healing and metaphysics. He informed me that he had learned a clearing technique called theta healing, and it had opened him up to a deeper level of work. Much to my delight, he was happy to practice his new skill, and considering what I was going through, I gave him lots of opportunity. Although I didn't realize it at the time, the magic of life was alive in that reunion. I had dedicated my year to healing, and healing support arrived. What better place for a journey of healing to begin than with family? I don't think I was intently focused on healing around family. As a matter of fact, I don't think I even knew there was the need. What I do know is that something shifted in the process of working with Ernie. As fate would have it, Ernie and I had already done some clearing work by the time I found out that I had to move out of the condo. My choice to move to a location that would be closer to family showed me that I was changing in my relationship to them. It wasn't that I intentionally resisted my family before, or had a poor relationship with them. It was more subtle than that. I had always felt separate and different from my sister and mother, and it was reflected in my proximity to them. Now I was ready to be living close by. As I shifted and healed, I saw a warmer relationship with them blossom. Working with family was just a warm-up for what was to come. Despite my brave and courageous change of attitude and my new expectations for something better, old fears continued to surface as the year unfolded. By the time I moved in June, funds were getting low and there was no one who could back me up financially. I had to figure something out. Even though my logic mind tried to tell me to start looking for a job, I knew that was not the answer. That direction would take me back onto the life course that I had just been kicked out of. Instead, my plan was to apply for a program that offers financial support while starting a business. It would give me the opportunity to start working in the alternative healing field, my true passion, and start developing the workshops that I was excited to offer. During this time, I was channeling daily with a group of beings called the Council of Nine. They had asked me to be their scribe during a meditation one day. Similar to my conversations with Henrietta, their messages were collected into my book, The Spiritual Seeker's Guide to Happiness. My connection with the Council of Nine was also contributing to my healing journey. What I have learned from these unseen forces is that we have actually been socialized not to love ourselves. The Council of Nine once told me we should take the word selfish out of our language. In truth, it is a guilt mechanism to keep us in a state of self-sacrifice versus self-love. There were many ways in which that manifested in my world, and one was to be living in lack. I began to realize that it stemmed from the limiting belief that I am not deserving of all the goodness the world has to offer. When I learned that we can only love another as much as we are loving ourselves, it made perfect sense to me and gave me permission to move toward complete self-love. I was beginning to understand that self-love is not selfish, but truly the greatest gift we can offer the world. In contrast, loving from a place of emptiness is not really love at all, it is need. Henrietta expanded on this one day when I asked her what she would like to talk about. I now recognize that her messages were often connected to what I needed to hear. At the time, I thought they were just random insights that she had to share. However, as I reflect back, I see that she was supporting my learning with her conversations. She answered my question by saying she would like to talk about love. Love? I questioned, since it seemed to be a recurring theme. She responded by asking, how could there possibly be too much conversation about love? Good point. Then I received this teaching about human love. Love in the human sense is not really love at all, but greed. The love that has existed among most, almost all, humans on your planet up until now has been self-serving love. And I put in brackets, not to be confused with self-love. You bring someone into your life to meet your needs and call it love. This is not to criticize what has been, for it was a necessary tool for survival. The reason we wish to speak about love this day is because it is time to have a new understanding of what love truly is. You feel it within yourself, Jane, when you are connecting to the earth and your guides and you are moved to tears, or almost so, by the vibration of what you feel. This is what love truly is. There is no condition connected to it. It is not there to fill a void, although it does replace a void. That is to say that when you are connected to this kind of love, there is no void in your life. There is no longing or emptiness for the lack of another in your life. There is a beautiful wholeness that wants only to serve. This does not mean that you do not have a beloved in your life. It means that you do not need a beloved in your life. When you have a loving partner in your life, it means that you accomplish so much more together in your service to the earth and humanity. We share this so that humans can understand that the old way of being in love will no longer serve their growth and development. It will often keep people from moving forward into their highest potential. For those who know they are in a relationship out of need, we ask you to question that need with yourselves. Are you in a relationship because you are afraid of not being in a relationship? If so, you are not allowing the fullness of true love, which we spoke of earlier, to come into your life. Now, this is not a conversation to encourage the ending of relationships. It is to encourage the full potential of who you are as human beings in this time of transition. The greatest love is within the self and for the self. Often, what appears as a loving relationship with another is truly a lack of love for the self. If you are looking for the wholeness of self to come through another, then you are lost. This conversation is to encourage you to find yourself. First, you must find yourself in order to then learn to love yourself. This is an important step in the evolution of mankind, and so we offer it here as an exploration. We offer it as an opportunity for awareness of self, and awareness of the true meaning of love. It was clear I needed to move into self-love in order to attract outcomes in my life that would reflect that love, versus my old pattern of attracting based on fear and lack of love. Things were off on the right track as I learned that I was accepted into the first stage of the self-employment program. That news allowed me to stop wondering about my source of income and breathe a sigh of relief for a while. The challenge was, participants were not allowed to begin practicing their business until the program officially started a few months later. As well, it could be some time before I was approved at the second level by the department that delivered the program. That left me with quickly diminishing funds and no way of bringing in income while waiting for the program to start. So, while I was having a wonderful time in my new home with the natural surroundings and my evolving connection with Henrietta and George, there were moments when I felt very insecure financially. Sometimes the messages from Henrietta would have me yearning for a simpler way of life. I dreamed of a culture where we were living off the land once again, and less dependent on the economic system that was such a struggle for me. The struggle stemmed from not having the desire for money while living in a society that requires it. Henrietta once said, "You are growing and learning how to be in these new times. As you do so, you will be growing out of many of the outmoded models of existence that have been anchoring you into darkness." Financial stress certainly felt like darkness for me, and I was so ready for it to change. I wondered if our economic system might be one of the outmoded models of existence she referred to. With all of this on my mind, I frequently found myself on the trail, lost in thought instead of being in the moment and appreciating the beauty around me. Henrietta was aware of this. Often she would show me my state of mind and invite me into other possibilities. Once, during this time, I visited Henrietta and didn't feel the same love from her that I usually did. I asked her what was different, thinking it was something about her. Instead, she told me to remember to be in the moment and not lose that connection. I took a few minutes to come fully into the present and then connected with her again. Once I was more centered, I felt the energy shift into the more familiar connection I have with her. I asked, if you could tell people of the world anything, what would it be? She started by saying, I would tell people to be in love, in every moment, in love with what is, even when what is not something humans would normally be in love with. I could feel what Henrietta was talking about as she shared this with me. It was another one of those moments where I was connected to another reality, which makes it hard to describe in humans' terms. I instantly felt a deep reverence for life, for the mere opportunity to be alive on this earth. In that moment, I knew that being here on planet Earth is the greatest gift we could ask for, regardless of what our reality looked like. It was a moment of understanding that opportunity to be here is so precious that an existence that we would judge as very difficult, such as a beggar on the street, is a great gift of existence. And as I am writing this, I am realizing that Henrietta was somehow able to lift me out of my human experience for a brief moment to touch on an awareness that exists beyond our normal understanding of the very precious opportunity to be here on this earth. I had the same experience on the park bench connecting with the oversoul of the damselfly. I believe she was trying to move me beyond my worries and lift me into a higher perspective of life. This message speaks to that invitation. Connecting to nature takes the human mind out of self-criticism and into wonder. This is very good for the soul. When your focus moves away from your internal criticism and into the natural world, you begin to see the wonder in existence itself. By questioning your mere existence on the earth and your place in the grand scheme of things, you begin to take your mind outside of the small, narrow cave that is the thinking mind, and you start to illuminate the higher consciousness where the mind can expand and grow. This place of the higher mind is where spiritual experiences come from. It is the place of universal wisdom that the inventors visit to grasp their creations. From this place, which you can connect to by being in nature, all the wisdom and wonder of divine mind is revealed. We would invite you as a society to visit there more often. Your North American society is so deeply buried in the intellect, it cannot see the simplicity and the purity of life that exists all around it. By stepping out of the small intellectual mind, curiosity would replace criticism, a much healthier perspective for life, to be sure. We are here watching, standing guard for the natural kingdoms on earth. Most of those kingdoms live in harmony unless interfered with. The human kingdom that has so much brain power is often lacking heart intelligence to create a loving environment for the self or anything in the physical environment surrounding the self. By looking outside of the self and seeing, truly seeing, what exists outside of the mind, Humans may find their way back to the heart. There is so much to love in the natural world. Few people can resist a litter of bear cubs in a zoo or a cuddly kitten. Let nature's realm soften your heart and then look inside. You are Creator's child. Creator has nothing but gentle love for you, but you must choose it through your life choices. If you feel lost or alone, love a tree. We promise it will love you back. No conditions, no expectations, and no rules. Just love given freely and with joy. Let the trees show you the way back to your heart. Let the natural kingdom awaken wonder within you once again. After feeling that deep connection, I asked Henrietta how we can find that reverence in this realm of existence. This is where the teaching expanded. The beginning is to get out of your mind and into nature, the heart. It is as if nature and your heart are the same energy. It can be a matter of the chicken and the egg. Being in nature, you can open your heart, and by opening your heart, you are more connected to nature. The outcome is a deeper reverence for life. The more you come to revere life, the more you will come to accept that all aspects of life are sacred, even the hardships. The hardships are also beautiful experiences that expand the soul. Sometimes hardships bring you to your knees, which was required for you to give up control and allow all that is to find its way into your heart. You can see in this example how hardship is actually beneficial. So when you have this understanding, it is the beginning of being deeply in love with just being. I understood. The only reason I didn't completely crumble when I lost my job was because I recognized the loss as an answer to my prayers. I also knew that I wouldn't have left on my own, even though I was miserable there. Life had to knock me to my knees, and then it was up to me to make the best of that state of vulnerability. The benefit of not being employed at the job I hated was obvious. However, despite what I was learning from Henrietta, the financial worry was making it hard for me to have such a deep reverence for life. Instead, I just wanted to go back to my comfortable coping strategy and check out. Even though being in the woods did feel better and I had a deep appreciation for my surroundings, when I returned home it was like a reality check and I found myself in a place of unrest and concern. My spiritual beliefs were that being happy and joyous and in the moment would allow the flow of prosperity and abundance to come into my life, but there was always a feeling of disbelief lurking in the background. I was unable to shake a deep fear that I wouldn't get into the program that I was completely dependent on financially. At the time, I had two ways of managing my fears: being on the dike or among the trees, and asking Ernie for help. Even though the forest offered some reprieve, I needed to go deeper. I called Ernie. As always, my friend was very generous in his support. I told him what I was feeling and he did some clearing. Then we hit a block. He was trying to help me see that my ego was holding fear around money, and I just couldn't see it. I wasn't connecting with it at all. Linking the words ego and money just didn't make sense to me. We were on the phone for almost an hour before I finally was able to get a glimpse of what he was saying and do the clearing. That one was deeply buried. A few days after my call with Ernie, I went to visit Henrietta again. It was fall now, and the trail was changing rapidly. As the weather got cooler, the ferns in the undergrowth were dying and turning brown, and the leaves on the trees were beginning to change. I made my way to Henrietta and sat on her exposed root as I often did. It was like a little seed at her base. I closed my eyes to connect with her and felt a powerful surge of energy running right up through my root chakra. I was taken by surprise as I had not experienced that before. It seems I may have needed some extra healing energy that day, and I was grateful to receive a little unrequested support. The message that followed felt like a reference to what I had gone through with Ernie, working to release my fear and find my way back to trusting life. Here's what she had to say. Love is the key to all creation. Creation is love, made to reflect love out into the world, to each other. Love all around. Love cannot heal if people do not let it in. The power of love can conquer all, but it takes a willing heart, one that has recognized that love brings life and is the true place of power. Evil has no power over love. If you only knew that, you would laugh at the folly that you have lived, letting fear hold you back for so long. This is a reason to love the self. Step into your power of being love and stand strong in the light of love like a warrior for spirit. Strong are they who feel so much love from the divine that they are invincible. They are invincible not because the physical body cannot be harmed, but because the spirit cannot be harmed. When you realize this, you carry the strength of love and your life changes. Gone are the days of holding fearful thoughts. They are replaced with the knowing of the power that love brings. Thanks to all the support I was receiving, the foreboding feeling dissipated as I managed to hold the faith that all is well. A couple of weeks later, I learned that my application made it through the secondary process of qualifying for the program, and my training would soon begin. I was elated. Finally, I could start promoting my business and get to work. I would be moving into what I knew to be my soul's work, offering healing and workshops. A couple of weeks after learning that good news, I received a phone call from the person who had done my initial interview to ask if I was in the program. I think she was relieved for me as she explained the reason for her call. Several people who thought they would soon be running their business as part of the program received disappointing news. Apparently, there was a lack of funds for the program, and not everyone could be accepted. I knew in that moment what my fear had been about. There was no doubt in my mind that I easily could have been one of those people had I not released my beliefs around lack. Perhaps my foreboding feeling was not just about releasing subconscious fears. I believe I was also tuning into what was a real possibility of being one of the unlucky ones, left hanging without any financial support at the last moment. I was deeply grateful for all the support I had received as the year unfolded. That news truly showed me the power of love over fear, just as Henrietta had explained. What I had not realized before is that our lives are directed based on the point of view we hold toward our circumstances. I was learning that my determination to stay positive and clear my limiting beliefs was attracting the support that the universe had been waiting to give me all along. This was a profound realization. So many times in the past I had been told that I just needed to get out of my own way and all goodness would be delivered, but I had no idea what that meant. I was beginning to understand that when we stop viewing life through our limiting beliefs, by discovering what they are and releasing them, we then have eyes to see the goodness and grace that has been waiting for us all along. One day, when I was feeling excited about my journey forward and connecting with Henrietta, she offered this message. This is a day of great magnitude on your earth. When she said that, I thought there may be some planetary alignment that she would tell me about, or something happening that I was not aware of. Instead, it was a simple lesson. The sun is shining brightly, unhindered by the clouds. The breeze blows through the leaves as they sway and flutter with appreciation. The shadows play upon your paper as the pen glides. This is the poetry of nature, ever changing, ever growing, and ever evolving. So, you humans who read these words, bring yourself to us. Allow us to merge with you even for a moment. Do not come to feel sorry for us. We are at peace. Come to feel that peace. Come to rest in the love we have to offer. It will open your heart, so that you may find that peace within yourself. It was a perfect reflection of what I was feeling as I imagined my business growing, knowing I had several months of financial support to make that happen. As my new life unfolded, I was discovering more and more how things are aligned, one thing leading to another. It's a saying we've all heard before, but I was beginning to see what it really meant. All the work that I had done with Ernie to clear and release my fears and trauma of the past was benefiting me in unexpected ways. No doubt the amount of clearing we did was a part of that. We literally cleared at least once a week all year long, as painful parts of my past continued to surface. As time went on, I discovered a new clearing technique called access consciousness. There were enough free videos online that I was able to learn the technique and use it successfully. Because Ernie and I had done so much work together, I was now able to feel the shift in my body when something was cleared. I played with access consciousness, using it with friends who were having problems, and could immediately feel the release as their concerns slipped away. The results were so successful that it became part of my new workshop that I developed to offer to my new community. A little more than a year after attending the weekend event, where I realized that my true desire was to be developing and facilitating workshops, I was on my way. The first workshop was a great success. It was called Discover Your Light. In a sense, it was sharing with others what I had learned for myself. I taught several tools on unlocking the deeply hidden subconscious beliefs that hold us back in life, and then I used my new skills to clear them. My greatest desire was to support others in realizing and clearing their limiting subconscious beliefs, just as Ernie and the trees had supported me. My world was such a transformation from what it had been only 1 year before. I was my own boss, setting my own hours, and doing what I loved to do. Along with the deep appreciation for the way life was unfolding, I continued to release and clear anything that came into my subconscious awareness as a fear or life pattern. As these remarkable discoveries were unfolding, so was my connection to the land. Although I thought I would be living in my little apartment forever, I was soon reminded that life is all about change. The day my landlord cut down several trees outside my living room window to reduce the chance of moss growing on the roof was the day I knew I was moving. It was a small stand of trees, but what it offered me was magical. There were young maples mixed with other hardwood and softwood trees, all tangled up with rambling rose vines that climbed at least 15 feet up into the branches. One of my fondest memories of being there was one winter day when I looked out onto the snow-covered trees to see a red cardinal feeding off the tiny rose hips on the rambling rose bush. It was so beautiful, with the contrast of the red bird on the white snow, and they are a rare sight in Nova Scotia. I couldn't remember the last time I had seen one. Even more significant, I equated it with love, and I knew I was being supported by something greater than me. That something greater is so often delivered to me by nature. Without the trees outside my window, it just wasn't the same. In my search for a new home, I found myself in a nearby community on a road that I had never been on before, going to check out an apartment. Even though it was winter and everything was covered in snow and ice, I was inspired by the scenery. At one point, the road was just a few feet from the edge of the dike, a little inlet of sorts, where the water of the Bay of Fundy would reach the dike at full tide. The shore was covered in huge sheets of ice. Such a scene would often send the chill of winter surging through me, but I found myself having a very different reaction. I was moved to tears as I passed that area of the road without knowing why. In my search to explain my reaction, I concluded that the land was talking to me, letting me know that this should be my new home. Even though the apartment was not ideal, I decided to rent it because of my reaction to the land. As I was about to learn, sometimes things are deceiving. My new apartment was essentially the upstairs of a beautiful old house built in the late 1800s. The owner was an organic berry farmer, which appealed to my love of the land. The property was covered in flowering shrubs, large willows, and fruit trees, as well as the orchard filled with a variety of berry bushes. There was a large wooden awning joining the barn and the house, covered with wisteria vines that were so old the stems were as large as my arm. I couldn't wait to see them in full bloom. I settled in and adjusted to the fact that I had to go through the house to get to my apartment and share the kitchen. For years I had been living on my own, so this was different for me, but I was sure this was where I was meant to be. A few weeks after moving, Ernie and I met at a local pub for lunch, and then he followed me in his car to come and see my new home. It was a new road for him as well, so I watched my rear view mirror to be sure he wasn't too far behind me as I made my way home. Then I noticed he was driving very slowly, barely moving. This started at the same place where I had been moved to tears as the road passed close to the dike. I had to wait at the stop sign before turning and let him catch up to be sure he would know which way I went. When he pulled up into the driveway behind me, I got out of my car and walked back to his to see what was going on. He was sobbing. He told me the moment he got to that same place on the road that I had cried, he burst into tears and could barely see to drive. The difference between our reactions to the land was that Ernie recognized what the tears were about. He had the clear awareness that there had been a massacre on the land there, and it was still holding the energy of the trauma. Immediately I thought of the expulsion of the Acadians. It was a historical event that happened in the mid-1700s when the British took over Nova Scotia and neighboring provinces and kicked the French off the land. It was the Acadians who had built the miles and miles of dikes that were still protecting the land from flooding as the tides rolled in and out daily. Apparently, the expulsion was more terrifying than my school history curriculum led me to believe. I knew right away that I had misinterpreted what my reaction to the land was really about. Ernie and I immediately decided to do a clearing for the land. We made our way to a large maple tree on the front lawn, and I called upon my guides to ask for direction. I was told that we should offer sound healing and other things to clear the land and also protect ourselves from what would be released. Then we went to the dike and performed the healing. We were given clear evidence that our short impromptu ceremony had released some of the pain of the past from the land. That experience provided more evidence of the connection between all life on this planet. We are living on this land that is our earthly mother. We may think we are separate from it, and yet the fact that Ernie and I both reacted at the same place in such a visceral manner speaks to the level of connection that is there. For sensitives such as Ernie and myself, it is as real as what we would consider our daily existence. After that clearing for the land, another miraculous event happened for me. I soon found myself very discontent with my living arrangement. My landlord was moving back into an old relationship, and the house was getting smaller, so to speak. I wanted out. The only problem, I was only 2 months into a 1-year lease. Again, life showed me the beauty of how things work when we are in alignment with all that is. Not long after Ernie and I cleared the land, I watched a YouTube video by one of my favorite at the time spiritual teachers. It was no coincidence, I am sure, that it was about releasing unwanted contracts, and I immediately thought of my lease. She gave all the details of going into meditation and what to ask for. I followed her advice and asked for all contracts that no longer served my highest good to be nullified, or something like that. What followed was almost unbelievable. The very next day, my landlord sheepishly asked if we could meet that evening. He told me that he was giving me 3 months' notice to end the lease because his girlfriend was moving in and he needed the space. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. He also paid me a month's rent to make up for the inconvenience. I was amazed at the swiftness of my request. I was gone in 2 months with no penalty and a little extra funds to help with my move. There is no doubt in my mind that I was called to live in that apartment so that Ernie and I could heal the land. Even as I write this, years later, I am deeply moved as I type these words. It is confirming for me the truth of it. My short stay there took me away from Henrietta and Georges, but into an unforgettable experience with the land. It was a clear indication of our abilities as humans and the power of love over fear. No wonder Henrietta spoke so frequently about love. Every bit of work we do to release our fear and pain from the past leads us closer to it. My experiences were certainly proving that. To offer Henrietta's perspective, this message gives great hope for us all in creating a new reality based in love. Just as Ernie and I released fears and trauma from the past, and together we released trauma from the land, we can all play a role in the creation of the future of humanity and the earth based on love. Here, Henrietta offers some advice on how we can all participate in creating a new world full of love. We would like to speak to you today of war. There are nations on your earth that have been warring for eons of time. They continue to do so in the name of God, Allah. This is creating a disturbance in the atmosphere of earth from their warring minds full of hatred. This can be easily balanced out by people who carry loving thoughts. We would invite those who would be of service to the world by emitting love to do so on a daily basis. Simply love everything: your family, your friends, your home, your surroundings, your career. Whatever you give thought to that fills your heart with love will help to balance the energy of war and hatred on the earth. Love is like a burning fire that wipes out hatred. It is alive and electric, whereas hatred is dead and heavy. You have no idea how significant this loving energy is. It gives others the ability to rise in a place of love as well. By putting your grace into the world, you are changing the vibration. The earth can use your support right now. She is holding the balance, but in this time of transition, where so much is changing, it is much easier for her when there is a more resonant balance of love over hatred and war. Soon a time will come when war cannot exist on this earth. As she transcends the third dimension into fifth dimensional reality, you will come to witness peace and joy. Those who would be at war will destroy themselves, no longer taking peaceful, innocent citizens with them. This transition phase is when it is vital to be adding your loving vibrations to the world. And know that you are changing the world in this way. You cannot say there is nothing you can do because you are just one person. It simply is not true. Your love is felt always. Your love makes a difference. Be gentle with yourselves. That is where love starts. Forgive yourselves for these days when you forget to be loving or cannot find that space within your heart. You are a human in a dense reality. You are doing wonderfully. For those who would choose to read this material, we know that your hearts are pure. You are grace upon this earth. The human experience is one of feeling many emotions, and so you fluctuate from day to day. Accept them all as perfect. All experiences are opportunities to learn more about who you are. When viewed from this perspective, the bad days are as valuable as the good. No right or wrong, just experience. This is the way of the master, and you are all becoming masters. You already are masters, you just don't know it. You have forgotten. But we see it into your hearts, and we know who you are, and we love you so. Love is the way out of war. Of course, that is an understatement. It is an obvious truth. The difference in what we are stating is that it does not have to be the ones at war who find love. Just create a balance of more love than hatred on this earth, and war will diminish. It will not be able to find a vibration that will support it. This is the new way of being, each person affecting the whole with conscious awareness. We hope this brings you some understanding of your role in the world. No one is insignificant. No one. There is so much wisdom in that message. As I turned my focus away from fear, I came closer to living in peace. The trees guided me there and opened up possibilities that I never knew existed. In time, I could no longer keep the tree wisdom to myself. I started to share the great teachings I was receiving with my friends. Some of my friends jumped right in and were happy to test their own abilities in connecting with trees. Others were more skeptical, which I could certainly understand. Knowing that Henrietta asked me to be her scribe so that I would share her messages with the world, and knowing they would be received with varying levels of doubt, I decided to look for research that might support my abilities to communicate with trees. What I discovered was beyond what I would have hoped for. To my delight, science was validating my experiences with trees.